Hi everyone. So I'm going to wait for a few of you to start joining us so that we can start our live for parent and baby brunch. We decided to do it on at Elana Africa so that we can eventually share this video so that everyone has access to it. But thank you so much for tuning in to our Instagram live for parent and baby brunch. Now, we did mention that, hey Jenny, we did mention that we are going to go live with Dr. J introduction once she's joined us, and then I'll take you through some of the questions that I have prepared. Of course, we want you to also, hey Jenny,
Hi,
we want you to also ask your questions. Jenny, if your connection is poor tonight, I'm just gonna keep talking and take some questions. But I think we can start. I can't believe I'm seeing you. Oh, what a day.
I know. It's a shame. It's so lovely to see you, but thank you for having me.
It's great to see you. Grade 1 for me. Jenny, on your side, what was your day like?
Pretty crazy. It is hot as ever in Cape Town, so we just actually surviving at the moment. And the mania of 3 kids and getting back into routine and into the school sort of setup and admin, it's a lot, I think, for all parents at the moment. So I think we need to give ourselves a bit of grace as we all try and find our feet.
Okay, well, we're finding our feet and we're also finding support tonight. Promise you we'll go live at 7 o'clock and it is that time. So welcome to all of you. I see a few of you have joined already. Hi to all of you who's joining our parents and baby brunch live on at Elana Africa. I'm Elana Africa Bredenkamp. It's really wonderful to have all of you here because some of you are parents and others who have told me that they want to join tonight are people that are looking to be parents. Others are saying we don't have support, we want to find it. Others have suffered loss, and we are wishing you long life and our condolences with you. But hopefully through this conversation tonight, as we unpack it a little, we'll be showing you some support. I'm going to introduce you to our guest for tonight. Dr. Jenny Rose is a clinical psychologist. She is phenomenal on social media in using her talent for good and lending support to parents where they need it by just giving advice and putting down free videos. So follow her right now at Dr. Jenny Rose. Right now, she has a PhD in attachment-based parenting. Jenny aims to equip parents with resources and strategies for everyday parenting to ensure that we are raising resilient, strong, and secure kids. Jenny, all of that sounds wonderful because all of us want a resilient and a strong and secure child. All of us also want support. I will never forget, it was about 2 years ago, I started a new project and I was chatting to one of my consultants and she said to me, in this environment at work, if it's support that you want, you better stop looking because this is not a supportive environment. But surely we want this in our homes where we are with partner or without, with support or without, with an au pair or with a helper of some sort that can lend a hand. We're juggling so much. There's COVID, there's us battling with anxiety, emotions. There's some of us that are looking for an au pair or caregiver. With all of that in mind, what are we actually looking for in order to create this wholesome and secure child? If we look at the scenario of support, whether it is in au pair or caregiver or even in a helper.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's so much to factor in and consider. It feels like such a big decision when we are considering someone coming into our home and having a hand in raising our kids in a way. And so, you know, it's a really sort of weighted decision. And I think we go over and mull over in our heads so many different scenarios and options and things that we think we need to be looking for. And there's a couple of things I want you to think about with this that is helpful. I think the first is, you know, obviously we need to tick the boxes of certain criteria and we need, you know, people that are involved in our lives to be reliable, to communicate, to be flexible, you know, all the lists of characteristics that are helpful. But it goes far beyond that. Those are the very sort of superficial things that need to be there, but there's such a deep second layer to it. And so, you know, for me, I think it's so helpful to really reflect on your own personality and to think about the qualities and the characteristics that you are wanting to have in your home and find someone that is compatible with that. And so I think it really is, I think of the idea of temperament. And I think, you know, we talk about a child's temperament all the time, but we forget that you and I have our own temperament, and a nanny or an au pair or someone that's coming in has their temperament. And so often we need to ensure that the temperament of this supportive person is compatible with the temperament of our child. And we want to facilitate the sort of most optimal way of engaging for our kids, rather than a dynamic where maybe they hit heads or they don't communicate in the same way. And so we've got to figure out some of those things. You know, I also say to many parents, we often are looking for a nanny or an au pair or someone that can completely mimic what we do. So, you know, even for myself, I think about that. I've got 3 kids, 3 young girls. I've got twins. So, you know, I've got to have a nanny that's super supportive and, you know, on her best game, because it's quite crazy with 2 little things running around. And so, you know, at one point I found myself wanting a mini Jenny in her. I was looking for, she needs to do things exactly as I want them done and as I like it to be done. And at some point I actually sort of reflected on this and thought, actually, this is not the wisest thing that I should be doing, because I have many shortcomings and pitfalls and blind spots as Jenny, the parent, as we all do. And so actually, I should be looking for a nanny or a supportive person that can be the gap or fill the gap that I have in my own parenting space. And so sometimes we think a nanny or an au pair should be exactly like we are, another version of us. And if we think about it a little bit more, if we expand our thinking a little bit more to say, actually, maybe this person can fill the gaps of the things that maybe are difficult for me or where I get triggered as a parent. And so I think thinking about who it is you are wanting to bring into your home is really a very self-reflective process. It's really about you as a parent thinking about what is it that you're looking for, and how do we find this in someone.
There's a lot said around the fact that, you know, when our parents had us, they had the aunt nearby, and they kind of did it themselves. You know, I'm thinking of my own scenario. I grew up in a mixed race family with a mom who gave up a job when she had us, you know, and then we were raised by my aunt at home, and that is just how it was. Mom was either at work or she was at home or at church, you know, and here we are. It just feels like life has become harder and more intense, and that we're looking for so much more to fulfill this perfect family, or even, you know, all those beautiful words that I read earlier, for the secure and the strong and resilient child. I mean, is it like fast food? You know, there's just more of it now. You know, around every corner there's just more, and it's faster, and there's more social media. Do you think as parents we fall into that trap of there's another diagnosis, you know, and now we need more support, you know, not just the nanny or the au pair, but, you know, such privilege. We need more, you know. Do you think we're falling trapped to, are we fooling ourselves in with our own emotions and self-worth? Is this not something that we should just do?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's twofold. For me, there's 2 important aspects to that question. And I love the sort of introduction that you spoke about your family and the village, the so-called sort of proverbial village that we talk about.
Yeah.
And, you know, what better thing to do for your kids than to raise them with this village? I mean, that's absolutely how it should be done. But the reality is that this village is not as accessible as what it used to be. We are finding that people are having, you know, parents generally, if there's 2 parents, are both having to work, you aren't really able to get a stay-at-home parent as often as maybe you used to, and you were surrounded by family, where now we have family that live all over the world. And so our village is a very different village, and that's, you know, and the nanny or au pair is actually part of your village. And so certainly even in my own home, our nanny is part of our family, and such a hugely sort of prioritized person, because they need to know that they're part of the village, and they replace part of the village that we don't have access to because people live far away and are no longer around the corner. So that's the first part of it, is that the idea of the village has changed somewhat. The second part is also so apt, what you've described, this idea of social media. And I really am a big believer in parents trusting their own intuition and own gut response, their innate belief on how they should parent. Because At the moment with social media, there's an expert around every corner. And there is just so much information that is being thrown at parents and overwhelming them. And it's building this narrative that we need to constantly be doing more, that we aren't good enough, that we need to ensure we do X, Y, and Z to get these kids that are secure and resilient and all those words we've spoken about. But it puts so much pressure on parents. And so we have less support in our village and a changing picture of our village, but we also have far more sort of scrutiny on our own parenting and a lot more critique on our own parenting. And I read a thing that stuck with me. It's so interesting to say that we actually, today's parents, even if we are working parents or if, whatever it might look like, we are parenting almost 60% more than what our parents parented, because we parent from a position of such guilt that we often overparent so much. We might only see our kids for 3 hours or whatever it might look like, but we overparent so much in that window that we're trying to make up for a missed day or maybe not being present in the morning or having to work. And so that is something we have to really reflect on and think about, because we are not doing ourselves any favors by being overly critical. We end up with so much mom guilt, and it's not helpful or productive for anyone.
If you just joined in, hi there, and thank you so much for joining our Parent and Baby Brunch Live. We are chatting to Dr. Jenny Rose. She has her PhD in attachment-based parenting, and she is a psychologist. We love her social media, so follow her at Dr. Jenny Rose. We're talking about parenting without support. I've had a few inboxes from moms, a comment recently of a mom, and I want to just commend you for speaking and for talking about being a single mom and how you manage to raise your children by yourself, and that they are able to go to university, and that even though you still have many concerns, we're able to encourage so many people on our feed. So thank you so much. Also follow Baby Brunch. We'll be posting this on our platforms if you've missed the beginning of this conversation. So at Baby Brunch SA, if you want to follow us. You said something now that had my ears and my attention, and I even had a little giggle, and it's the word guilt. Oh gosh, have we had conversations around this? I mean, we did a whole podcast and conversation around the guilt that we have. There's different kinds of guilt, whether you are divorced and trying to parent, whether you're a working mom, stay-at-home mom, there's always guilt, and we are parenting from this position of guilt. Then there's also the guilt that goes hand in hand with, now someone has reached out and we are able to live this life of a working mom, or be able to leave the house to go shopping, but you hand over your baby or you hand over your child, and you have this guilt. And this is one of the questions that we had, that you are not good enough, and you're not good enough of a parent because you are handing over your baby. And so is that a fair analysis to make on self? Because surely we can't be that hard on ourselves, but it seems like Anonymous feels inadequate when she hands over her child. It seems like she feels that she is not good enough.
Sorry, Ilana, I think I lost you for a second there, but I am back if you.
I can hear you a little bit, Jenny. I can see that your screen is folding at the moment. If you have any comments, you're welcome to comment with pleasure. Also, you're welcome to comment on our Facebook page when we post this video. I will read some of the questions that we had, and perhaps you also want to take part in the conversation once we post this video live. While I'm waiting for Jenny to come back. You're back. So we're talking about the guilt, Jenny, around parenting and handing over baby, because that's one of the questions that we had. The minute she hands over her baby, she feels, but I'm not a good enough parent. I think we've lost Jenny again. So you're welcome to comment, and I can tell you already, Anonymous, that you heard it now from a psychologist's point of view, that our village looks different. Our village does not look the way that it used to when our parents were raising us. We also had another question that asked the following. It says, with the emotional roller coaster that COVID has left us, parents are battling with so many emotions on a daily basis. Sometimes we don't know what we are looking for in a partner, let alone in our au pair or a caregiver. So you're welcome to comment and let us know what you think about that. So many questions and so many referrals or references to the word anxiety and emotions. I also have to say that we do a lot of content on Parent and Baby Brunch around this, and we have wonderful, amazing experts that wants to come on board, that always gives us advice and that wants to answer all of your questions. Here's another one that came through that caught my attention. So thank you so much for always contacting us and for commenting on our pages. This one says, before selecting the correct caregiver, so it seems like the person needs to come into the home, what are the red flags to be aware of? I must say, on a personal level, when I did have someone that helped me with my children, I always feel, Jenny says she's trying to rejoin, no problem. I always feel like, oh, you know, everything is going to be fine. I just need anyone. I have a big sense of trust. So I trust easily. And sometimes it's my downfall because I can see that sometimes it's not the best option for my family, but I really enjoy the people. So that's one of the things that I want to ask Jenny about the notion of letting someone into your space and you enjoy them, but perhaps the rest of the family don't. Jenny, you back. Can you hear us? Can you hear me?
I'm back. I'm so sorry. I think,
not a problem at all.
The Cape Town heat has destroyed our Wi-Fi or something that's happening today. But I'm back.
Listen, this Wi-Fi is like parenting. Hey, it is unpredictable.
100%.
And yeah, you never know what's going to come next. Just to get back to our question that I asked you earlier, the mom feels inadequate when she hands over baby. She says, you know what, I have this guilt when I let caregiver into my space. So it seems like she's found the right person to help her or assist her with parenting or helping her around the home while she is with baby. But she's left with a feeling of, I'm not good enough.
Yeah. You know, I think it's such an important conversation to have because I think it ties into what we said earlier, this idea of mom guilt. And there's this narrative that we are fed that we need to be the best at everything. We need to be perfect parents. And we've shifted from the previous generation that was able to acknowledge their shortfalls and the struggles and use the village and rely on the village. And we now parent from a position where we feel we need to be absolutely perfect. We need to do everything. We need to bake the biscuits for the school bake from scratch. We need to be doing everything homemade, be present at everything. Exactly. And we feel guilty. You know, we fall into that trap. I find myself doing the same thing. And I can know and recognize that we don't need to do it all, but we feel like we have to. And I think, you know, this is the first thing, is that there's this constant message from everywhere, whether it's social media, whether it's the experts out there saying how present we need to be. But what a lot of people fail to do, and this is where, you know, it's so important to actually understand the science behind it and the theory in attachment and the neurodevelopment with kids, is that there's this concept called good enough parenting. And that means we don't need to be perfect parents because, in fact, we all know that that concept doesn't exist. And we are going to fail miserably time and again. But there is so much depth and growth and actually amazingness that can come out of those struggles, out of reparation, out of modeling apologies, out of failing and getting back up. And we need to not see having help and support as a reflection on our own parenting and an indication that we are failing in some front. In fact, we should be advocating for people able to put their hands up and say, I need support because I can't juggle it all. I can't do this all. I need to get support.
There's some questions that are coming through, and I vaguely saw it, and I'm so sorry. I'm going to just call you anonymous because this video is going to go onto one of our platforms. I mean, the notion of a child being sick at home and you having to take time off from work, we are surrounded and filled with so much guilt because sometimes we are unable to be with that child at home. I'll give you an example. I work in media, so I'm on the radio. I can't just take leave when I want to. That's not because of my employer, but it's because I have a responsibility as a broadcaster. Yeah. And so when in my instance for grade 1, there is assembly on Friday and athletics tomorrow, I can't go. I can't just take time off and go. There's so much that's happening around us. And so we have to send our replacement. In my case, my partner will go. Yeah. And so what if you don't have partner and you need to rely on other people? I almost want to ask, is that okay? how can we feel less guilty that we can't be there all the time?
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's two big things for me. The first one is around the idea of expectations. And I think this is just something we should all devote some reflection and time to. We have got to alter and change and tweak our expectations everywhere. The expectations we have of ourselves, what we have of our kids. And we've got to really think about what is realistic and what is achievable. Because without realizing it, as parents, we set these expectations that we need to, do it all and be at every event, do all the things. And all that does is on the days that we don't make it and we're unable to be there, it just perpetuates our sense of failure. It makes us feel like we have now completely failed our kids. This is not okay. And actually, we need to shift our expectation because we're setting the bar far too high for ourselves. And that's where the problem lies. We need to say what is doable, what is acceptable. And it's around this idea of expectations. And so absolutely having other people there present is a wonderful gift that you actually are giving your child. I say to parents often, and this is often one of those like penny drop moments, especially for parents that have daughters. I often say, what is the lesson that you want to teach your child? Because without realizing it, every single day you are teaching your kids lessons and you are modeling to them what it is you are showing that you value and what's important and what you prioritize. And without realizing it, we are sending this message to our kids that parenting is all consuming, that we should self-sacrifice to the nth degree, that we should never put ourselves first, and we should never share the load with anyone. And when I say to parents, okay, so one day, if your daughter in 30 years' time has got her own child and she says to you, but all I ever saw was that you sacrificed everything and you never put yourself first and you never considered yourself or got help. So that's what I'm doing. And parents go, wow, like that is an eye-opener for me, because I have to realize that this isn't actually just about me, but it's what I'm teaching to my child, who is going to one day model and mimic many of the decisions that I have made myself. And so that's what we need to be thinking about.
Some wonderful comments coming through from you saying, as long as someone shows up and supports my child. I think it's a wonderful comment, because I'm thinking of, even being on a holiday, we went away for a little break. If you see someone too close to the water, you kind of go, whose child is this? Because, they're too close to the water, and I'm seeing this. So I'm really enjoying this. The one thing that I battled with when we started this conversation around parenting without help this year is the sense of loss when there is a partner that's no longer there, be it divorce, separation, or even in this case, death. Over the weekend, another incident, I am standing next to a young boy and I know his mother. I don't want to say in which context because I want to keep her anonymous. And I say to him the following, as me and him, we're conversing, he's 5 years old. I chat to him and I say to him, because I love praying. And he says, yes, he also likes praying. And this child says the following, and I had no comeback. He says, mommy and I also pray because daddy died. Now I'm aware of the father that is no longer there, but I didn't know that a 5-year-old has an idea that daddy won't be there for the rest of the year and mommy has to be there alone. And so other than, we don't have a lot of time, and there's a lot of psychology around feeling alone and loss, but I want us to can we connect with that for just one moment, please?
Yeah, for sure. I think that it's so relevant now, given the last 2 years. I think people are experiencing loss on so many levels. It might be loss of a loved one, but it might be loss of, the lifestyle that they had or the life they had. They've had financial implications. They've had to maybe, they've no longer got a nanny or an au pair, or they've had to move home. So this idea of loss is huge. And I think what we often do as parents is we want to hide and protect our kids from struggle. And so probably the biggest mistake we make is in times of adversity or struggle, we withhold things from our kids thinking that we are protecting them. But what happens is a child is already experiencing the events. And so there's an experience of the event. And either we get to choose as parents, either they develop their own narrative in their head of what is going on, or we get to write the script of the narrative that plays out. And I can guarantee you that the narrative that a child develops in their head is often quite extravagant. There's very sort of magical thinking, quite bizarre things, because they're only 3, 4, 5, 6. And so we often say, you know, that seems crazy or ludicrous. You know, kids take responsibility for things that obviously they don't have responsibility for. But they develop this narrative. And so, you know, the best piece of advice that I could give is make sure that your child is processing along with you in a space where you can verbalize at an age appropriate way. So we want to make sure the content we give them is not, you know, inappropriate in terms of their age, but we want them part of the process so that they too can unpack and process and move on from the trauma. Otherwise, it's, you know, it's this absolute sea of uncontainment, uncertainty, that they have no idea what's going on. And we want to provide structure, boundaries, and containment to their experience.
Dr. Jenny, you're phenomenal, and I love your energy, the way you speak, and how you just make things sound so real, because you're a mom yourself and you work with children and families. To everyone who has joined us for our live, and to all of you that's watching this video, we want you to comment and inspire or vent and tell us how you're really feeling. Sure. We really don't mind. Yeah, we love conversations, okay, and we're definitely going to have them. This was our conversation around parenting without help this year, whether it is in the form of a partner, a family member. To the message that I had about the loss of a partner, and to the mom of the little boy, you know who you are. We are thinking of you and we support you. And yes, our village looks different. And so my children is also your children, and therefore yours are also mine. All right. So thank you so much. Dr. Jenny, you are incredible. I'm sorry about your Wi-Fi.
I know. I feel terrible. I'm so sorry. But it's so lovely to chat. Next time we will be better.
Next time I'm gonna record you for a podcast. There'll be no mistakes. It will be flawless.
That sounds good. I'm keen for it.
We can't wait to chat to you again. Follow Dr. Jenny right now at Dr. Jenny Rose. Also follow at Baby Brunch SA. This video live on our platforms. Go to babybrunch.co.za, and then also comments and let us know, what do you think? My name is Ilana Afrika Bredenkamp, and have a good Thursday and weekend. Bye.